Joe Hunk here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You can join Joe at 97.7 ESPN Huntsville. It's ESPN The Zone right there in Huntsville. Joe, is Alabama the best team in the country?
No. And the only reason I say no is because I would also argue that at today on November 16th, 2020, they're not the best team in the conference. And I think that Florida is the best team in the conference just because of how well that they have played and the fact that they're on a roll. Right now, if Alabama and Florida were playing this weekend, I would choose Florida to win. Now, again, I just mentioned SEC championship's not for almost another month. So a lot can change in that point in time. But Alabama's secondary has struggled this football season. And I think that that is where Florida is going to be able to really expose them in the SEC championship as of today. Now, again, a lot of things can change. You have players for Alabama in their secondary who are improving every single week. And I think that that is the reason why you have to preface that by saying as of today. I do think that Florida today, if they were playing in Atlanta in front of 80,000 people, I think Florida's winning. But in a month, that could be totally different and that could totally change. I do think that right now college football is down to 6 teams when it comes to who's making it into the college football playoff. I do not believe that we need to expand it, but I believe that 3 conferences, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the SEC, all have 2 teams in their conference that have a legit argument at making the college football playoff. Ohio State and Wisconsin and the Big Ten. You have now Notre Dame playing the ACC schedule, being in the ACC championship game if they make it that far, along with Clemson has that argument, and Florida and Alabama have that argument. I don't look at Oklahoma State. I don't look at anything happening in the Pac-12. Unfortunately, like what you're seeing with BYU and Cincinnati and Marshall and Coastal Carolina and those teams, these group of 5, I don't think that it's going to be college football playoff just because we have too many Power 5 teams that are very good, and a team like BYU who isn't independent but doesn't get the love that Notre Dame does, they're going to be on the outside and they're probably going to have to settle for a New Year's Six bowl.
We see Tua doing what he's doing at the next level, getting comfortable with the Miami Dolphins. I saw a stat a couple of weeks ago that Mac Jones actually put up better passer ratings against ranked opponents than Tua. Do you think Mac Jones is really that good, or is it all the window dressing, all the great skill position players around him?
I have a humongous Alabama fan that is right across the door from me right now that's sitting on the outside. So if he hears this, he may come through that door. So I'm just going to let you know now. I think that when we look back at his career with Alabama, there's going to be a lot of what ifs, and there's going to be a lot of, he could have done more. It's sad to say that with what happened in his freshman season, winning the national championship, but due to injuries, he never truly lived up to his potential with Alabama. We're starting to see healthy Tua in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, what he can potentially do. I think that Mac Jones' biggest thing right now is his health, and honestly, the best growth in the most that I've seen Mac Jones grow in the course of the last roughly 365 days, since we're around that time where he got that first start against Tennessee. I think that he has grown mentally. He's making better decisions. The game is slowing down for him. And I think that you can go back and see how he played against Tennessee, how he played against Auburn a little over a year ago. And you can see how the decision-making is better. Mac Jones is a tremendous quarterback. And if he were to leave, then he's going to potentially be one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks taken in the draft. And that's going to be an amazing thing for an Alabama team, but that through Nick Saban's tenure, the quarterback position has been the biggest question mark, because all you've had is A.J. McCarron and McElroy. Well, A.J. McCarron is a career backup, and Greg McElroy is now on the SEC network. So a lot of this with Alabama is the fact that Mac Jones could potentially leave this Alabama football team when he is done with his career, being that he is a redshirt junior and he can leave now, and he could potentially go and maybe even get drafted higher than what 2 is, depending on where the NFL teams are going to line up with this, because we all do believe Trevor's going to be the first quarterback taken. But right now, it's Justin Fields or Mac Jones could be the number 2 quarterback taken in this draft. And that's just how good and how much Mac Jones has grown just in 365.
I forgot there for a split second when I was offering up Mac Jones that I was getting into your wheelhouse with the NFL draft. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, as much as I love college football, I am an NFL and I love the NFL. I do. I think that as an overall haul, and again, I know you're Mr. College Football and all of this, but for me,
Oh,
the
Joe, if
college
I could add 10 hours to my day, I'd start an NFL channel. I love the
look,
NFL.
and I think that for me, the product in the NFL is better than the product in college football. I think that this year, what we are seeing with college football, that this is more of what the product of college football should be, where you're seeing Power Five teams week after week playing against each other. And I think that even if it is an Alabama versus Kentucky, that is so much better than watching Auburn versus Savannah State. And I really think that that is where, your Norfolk stakes and all this, I understand it. But personally, this has been my belief for many years. I think that college football should move the group of 5 teams to more of a preseason type schedule. You schedule 1 or 2 for a preseason game. You still give them their payouts. It may not be as much, but you give them their payouts so that they can continue operating, which is the reason why they schedule these games. And then you just go with a Power 5 heavy, 10 or 12 game schedule. And that's what your football season should be. And I think that it would make a much better product on Saturdays than what we've seen in the past. I think this year is also part of the reason why, honestly, you just really see that it doesn't matter if it's 8 games or 9 games or 10 games or 12 games. The best teams in the country are going to rise to the top. It's the old Macho Man reference, man. The cream rises to the top. And these teams, your Alabamas, your Floridas, your Ohio States, we would have been talking about them if it was a 12 game schedule. We'd have been talking about Clemson and potentially Notre Dame if that was a 12 game. Arguably, honestly, Notre Dame could argue that they're playing a tougher schedule in 2020 than what they normally do when they have their Michigan States and their Michigans and all that, because those teams this year are not that good. And so that is why, honestly, the schedule they're playing now is a lot better than what they have in the past. And that is potentially benefiting them if they were to lose in the ACC championship game, because now they get the number 1 team in the country potentially on their schedule twice. And Clemson there, that's a huge strength of schedule builder where they normally wouldn't have that in their independent schedule. And I think that this is proving that college football could go to a different type of scheduling, I should say scheduling system that would benefit them. And I think that's the reason why in the NFL, people don't realize how good the football players individually are in the NFL as compared to college football. And I think that there's a reason why the Red Zone channel gets a lot more views than what the ESPN extra innings or the extra goal line channel or whatever it is gets, because the product on the goal line channel is showing you Norfolk State versus Savannah State because they're in the red zone and you don't want to see it.
Oh, the red zone. Oh, I watch it
every day.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I was watching it during the pandemic when they were going through their
when they were
week 3 and 4. Yeah, dude, they showing last year's. I was going through that, and I think that's proof right there that if the Red Zone channel, which is what majority people want to watch now, unless your team is playing, that gets more views than what the Goal Line channel does, because the Goal Line channel is going to show you. In the past, I've turned over and it's been Idaho and New Mexico State, and at the exact same time, USC and UCLA were having a good football game, and I'm going, hold up, can you swap over to that? But you can't, unlike the Red Zone, which will put you in those situations and be able to allow you to watch those. And I think that that's another proof that college football can improve their scheduling. And if they truly wanted to, they could add some preseason games. To me, you get rid of the spring games. You add 2 preseason games that would go into your group of 5 teams being able to get their paydays. And then you just go with an all Power 5 schedule, and the group of 5s play the group of 5s. And that's where you're going to get your best football. And I think that's where you're going to get a lot of these teams that are going to be better at the end of the season, because as we can see this year, the best teams are still going to win.
If somebody could give me a Power 5 red zone, that would be amazing, because for every hour of football that you're watching, if you're just watching a game, you're watching 15 or 20 minutes of commercials. So that's one reason I love the red zone, is it's nonstop football. Shoot, I did records yesterday afternoon or Sunday afternoon. I put on the red zone on DVR so I wouldn't miss anything. And then I went back and just watched it all. I love the red zone. Love the red zone. So back to the group of 5, Joe. You would take, regardless of how good Cincinnati and BYU are, and BYU's kind of lost in the middle of the group of five and the power five. You could put them anywhere. But Cincinnati, Memphis, what they've been the last few years, UCF and Boise State in previous years, regardless, you would say, you know what, if you want to go play a playoff, we're just locking in on the power five.
Well, and so far we've seen in the college football playoff that there's the only non-Power 5 football team that's going to get in is going to be a Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is still considered Power 5 even though they're independent. And so majority of the time people forget BYU is an independent in football. They have their own television network. They tried to go about it the same way that Notre Dame did. The problem is Notre Dame has NBC as theirs, and BYU has some channel on channel 475 that you have to search to kind of find. And so the problem that BYU is finding is they have got to make a decision. And I honestly believe, and I know that this is something that college football needs to do as a whole, we're seeing this a lot with COVID testing. Pac-12 has their own COVID testing. The Big Ten has their own COVID testing. The SEC has their own COVID testing. The SEC, you could test positive on Tuesday and you can still play on Saturday. The Big Ten, you test positive on Tuesday, you're gone until Christmas. And so there's a big difference. We need uniform. We need it to be uniform because so many people are all about the money getting into their pockets and what we are seeing. That's what the boosters are there for, and trying to make sure that their team and their product is getting the best. We saw that a ton with Oklahoma State and T-Boo Pickens and the amount of money that he used to put into that program. God rest his soul. And you're seeing this with Alabama and Auburn and Florida is they have boosters that are willing to pay more money in it. Ohio State's the exact same way. And so if there is a group of five team or an independent, your BYUs, your Cincinnati's, your UCFs, that they have these boosters that want to play big boy football. And I don't just mean, you want to, hey, we want to be in the Power Five because we want that $40,000 to $50,000 payday when it comes to your college football, your SEC networks and your ACC networks. They want to play big boy football, then come on and let's do it. And let's figure out a way to make the product better, because this year, we've really seen that the product is actually better right now, even though there's no crowd. There's fewer fans in the stands, and we're having to deal with schedules being shifted around, but you're getting a lot better helmet to helmet football than what you have in the past. To me, if you figure out a way that those group of fives can continue to make their money, get the paydays, and the SEC teams go on, or the ACC, the Power Five teams can go on and play a Power Five only schedule, then both conferences and teams are going to win. Because right now your FCS programs, that's the reason why your Incarnate Ward is scheduling somebody like Arkansas State here in a couple of weeks, because the FCS schedule doesn't even start for like another 2 months, and they need football games. And we've seen it up here in North Alabama. North Alabama's taken a couple of check games just so that they can provide for their program before they get into their FCS schedule. There has to be a uniform body. There absolutely needs to be. And unfortunately, until somebody in a group of people get together and understand, look, we understand you making your own television deals, but let's make it as part of something that we can make it where it's beneficial for the product as a whole. Then this product is going to continue to be behind the NFL. You're going to have your diehard fans, because the tradition in college football is way better than the tradition in the NFL, but the product in the NFL is better than the product in college football. And I think this season, with 10 teams playing each other in the SEC week in, week out for a 10-game schedule, I think that is much better than what we're going to see in the next coming years, unless somebody changes it.
Joe Hunk, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone, never disappoints, always delivers, always a good time, always insightful. Joe, appreciate you stopping by. If you've got any parting words, I don't want to shut you up before it's time, but anything else on any of the matchups this weekend?
Well, as a guy that sat on here, talked about Alabama and Auburn wearing a Tennessee hat, I think that I'm pretty good for the day. I think I've said enough as it is. And if you would like to hire me as the commissioner of the NCAA football schedule, I will proudly do so. Just tweet at me at Joe Hunk, and we can get the ball rolling so that we can improve college football for everybody. I think that's the way we should go about this.
I definitely have my input on that as well. We'll get together.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, Joe.